Hi there, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in today's video I'll be testing out fonts to see just how small is too small when it comes to font sizing for stamps made with the Silhouette Mint. We'll be designing the test stamps in Mint Studio, which is the software that you use to make stamps with the Silhouette Mint. We want to make sure that we're in Design View, and if you open Mint Studio and it doesn't default to Design View, you can just click on the rectangle icon at the top right of the Artboard area to set it to the Design View. I have the Stamp Settings window open to the right of the screen, and the icon to open this is in the top right menu, third from the right. I'll be using the 45 by 45 stamp sheet size for these stamps, so I'll click on 45 by 45 in the stamp sheet size list, and when I do that, you'll see the design area change to the correct size. Next, I'm going to go over to the left menu and click the text icon to open the text style window. The first type of font that I want to test is a sans serif font, which is a nice clean style of font. I'm going with Arial. This font is one that most of us already have since it comes pre-installed with most operating systems. The default text size is 36 points, and I think that's going to be on the large side, but we'll try it out. While the text tool is still selected, I'll click on the artboard to activate a cursor. Yep, this is definitely going to be too large for our test. So I'll highlight what I've typed out so far by clicking and dragging inside the active text area. And then I'll go over to the text size section of the text style window, click and drag to highlight the point size, and type in 12 to make the text smaller. This is a nice, small, but not too small size to start with. I'll double click on the text area to activate it again, and I'll type in 12-point Arial font so we know which font and what size this test sample is. After that, I'll click on the artboard to deactivate the text area, then click on it once to select it. Then I'll go up to the top left menu and choose Edit, then Copy to copy it, and Edit, then Paste to paste the copy onto the artboard. You can also press Ctrl+Command+C on your keyboard to copy, and Ctrl+Command+V to paste. I'll click on the copy while it's selected and drag it down under the first line of sample text. Then I'll double click on it to activate the text area, click and drag to highlight all of the text, and reduce the font size to 11 points using the text size dropdown in the text style window. Instead of using the dropdown, you can also change the font size by clicking into the size field and typing in the point number. After the font size is changed, I'll go back over to the text area and click and drag to select just the number 2. Then I'll type in 1 so it matches the font size for this test sample. I'll repeat the copy, paste, and font size change process until I'm out of room in the design area. For this font, I was able to fit text sizes down to 2 points. Honestly, I'm almost 100% certain that 2 points or even 3 or 4 points is way too small to stamp clearly since these point sizes are usually too small to even print clearly, but I want to try it out anyway. I've been surprised before with the Silhouette Mint stamps, so I figure it's worth a shot. I got all OCD at this point and started moving certain lines around to make the spacing between them more even. I didn't need to do this, but sometimes I can't help myself. After this, I'll click and drag to select all of the text samples, and then I'll go up to the top left menu and choose Object, then Align Center to center everything. Then I'll go back and choose the Object menu, then Align, and this time I'll choose Center to Stamp, which is a pretty cool option because it centers the selected elements both horizontally and vertically within the stamp design artboard area. Next, I'll click on one of the mint leaf icons. You can find one at the far right in the top right menu, and the other one is the right icon in the set of 3 icons that's within the design area. After I do this, the design area will change to the final review area. The text is automatically mirrored so it will print on the stamp properly, and a preview of the stamp sheet casing appears around the design. My mint is turned on and ready to print, so I'll just need to press the Start Mint button in the Send to Mint window on the right to get things started. When I do this, the status at the bottom of the window changes to Insert 45 by 45 stamp sheet. After I insert the stamp sheet, you'll see the status change to detecting media, then initializing, then printing while the stamp prints. If you want to see how a stamp is created from start to finish with the mint, I made a video a little while back that shows the full process, and a link to that should be popping up now if you want to check it out. After the first stamp is printed, I'm going to design the second test stamp. First, I'll click on the rectangle design view icon to take us back to that view. For this stamp, I want to test a serif font, which is a font that has lines at the ends of strokes. These lines can sometimes be on the thin size, especially at smaller sizes, so I definitely want to see how a font like this holds up on a mint stamp. I'm going to choose the Georgia font for this. Georgia is another font that most of us already have since it comes pre-installed with most operating systems. I'll double-click on the first line of text to activate the text area. Then I'll click and drag to select all of the text, and I'll go up to the font list in the text style window and choose Georgia from the list. When I do that, you'll see the text change to the Georgia font, and I'll go back over to the text area, select just the word Arial, and change that to Georgia. The point size is still 12 points, so we don't need to change that. I'll continue this process until all of the text samples have been changed to Georgia, and when I'm finished, I'll click the Send to Mint icon and print the stamp. Okay, one more stamp to make. This time, I'll be using Delecia Script, which is a very delicate script font. Sometimes these types of fonts with very delicate and thin strokes don't do as well at smaller sizes, and I definitely want to test this out on the mint. I'll go through the exact same process as I did with the last font, clicking to activate the text area, then changing the font to Delecia Script for each line of sample text. After I'm finished, I'll click the Send to Mint icon and print the stamp. Alright, so I have all of my stamps here, along with the coordinating size stamp mounts that come in the stamp sheet sets for the mint. The stamp sheet sets include just the stamp sheets and mounts, so if you need a block to put them on, you'll need to purchase a stamp kit, which includes a stamp block, sheet, and mount in the same size. I already have a matching stamp block from a kit that I purchased earlier, and that's what I'll be using for the stamps. The stamp mounts slide on and off the block, so you only really need one block and you're set for any stamps you make in that size. I'll slide the stamp mount onto the block and click it into place. Then I'll lift off the lid for the mount and I'll set that aside for a couple of minutes while I prepare the stamp. First, I'll fold the cardboard along the perforated line and tear that piece off of the stamp sheet so I can remove the stamp. The stamp is covered with a thin layer of protective plastic that's a little bit like cling wrap, and you'll want to make sure to peel all of that off before using the stamp. Next, I'll grab the stamp block and mount, and I'll peel the protective paper from the top of the mount to expose the adhesive that will hold the stamp in place. Then I'll line the stamp up over the mount and press it in place. Before we get to stamping, we'll need to ink the stamp. I'm using the black Silhouette Mint brand ink for this, and I'll squeeze enough ink out of the bottle to cover all of the printed areas on the stamp. After that, I'll let the stamp sit so the ink can absorb. 5 to 8 minutes is the recommended amount of time to let the ink sit and absorb, and I almost always go with 7 minutes. Okay, the ink stamp has been sitting for 7 minutes, and now we're ready to stamp. I always fold a piece of printer paper in half and stamp the excess ink off on that. I fold it in half because the first few stamped impressions are pretty inky and the ink often seeps through a single layer. Doubling it up helps prevent any ink from getting onto my work surface. After I've stamped off the excess ink and I'm getting clean impressions, I'll stamp onto a piece of good quality cardstock so you can see the results. With the Arial font, it looks like you get clear stamped impressions down to about 7 or 8 points. I think this is really good because you're generally working with smaller sizes for custom return address stamps, and I definitely recommend this font and similar clean sans serif fonts for address stamps or for custom name and text detail areas on other types of stamps. I'll go through the same process to put together the Georgia font stamp that I did for the Arial stamp. And after the stamp is mounted on the block and ready to go, I'll ink it up and allow the ink to absorb for 7 minutes. After the ink has absorbed, I'll stamp off any excess onto a piece of printer paper that's been folded in half, and then I'll stamp an impression onto good cardstock so we can see the results. Georgia gives pretty clean impressions down to the 8 or 9 point size, which is also very good. After that, the serifs on the ends of the strokes start to bleed into each other a little, which honestly isn't completely unexpected. 8 or 9 points would also be pretty good for custom return address stamps or customized name and text detail areas on other types of stamps. Finally, I'm going to go through the same process for the Delecia Script stamp that I did for the other two. After I've inked the stamp and allowed it to sit for about 7 minutes, I'll stamp the excess ink onto a piece of printer paper that's folded in half, and then I'll stamp an impression onto good cardstock. Unfortunately, at these small sizes, a font like Delecia Script just isn't readable. The areas that do stamp actually look a little pixelated, and the thinner, more delicate strokes don't even show up at all. I wanted to do a little additional testing with Delecia Script, so I set up a second stamp with larger point sizes. The largest point size on this stamp is 18 points. After setting up the stamp and stamping off the excess ink, I'll stamp it onto the cardstock, and you can see that I still wasn't able to get a clean impression with this font. So if you'd like to make a stamp with a script style font, I'd recommend that you go with something where the upstrokes aren't quite so delicate and use it at a larger size. If you have a delicate font that includes a bold version, that would give you a much better shot at a clean impression. Or if you have software where you can apply a stroke to the text, you might want to give that a try to make those delicate lines a little bit heavier. I did get good results with both the Arial font and the Georgia font, both of which would be great choices for custom return address stamps or stamps with custom name areas and text details. Obviously, I'd never be able to test every font out there, and scale can be very different from font to font. So 8 or 9 points work for Arial and Georgia, but might be teeny tiny on another font just because of the way that it's scaled. Generally speaking though, I think that sans serif fonts that are similar to Arial and serif fonts that are similar to Georgia will work well at these smaller sizes. I hope you found this video to be informative, and that it's given you a better idea about how small is too small and how delicate is too delicate when it comes to fonts and silhouette mint stamps. You can find a full list of supplies used in this project in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more silhouette mint stamping projects, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.